Greetings fellow gorehounds and welcome back to another Blood Splattered vlog. Alrighty then, so we have another 2016 catch-up movie here, and this week's movie is a movie that I was honestly avoiding for like the entirety of 2016. And the reason I was avoiding it is because not only is it a remake of a movie that I fucking love and hold near and dear to my heart, it was also being done in an extremely baffling way based on what I was reading leading up to the movie's release. And the movie I'm of course talking about is 2016's Cabin Fever, the remake of Eli Roth's Cabin Fever from 2002. And as I said a second ago, 2002's Cabin Fever is a fucking awesome horror comedy. I love that movie, and I know I'm in a minority there. Well, I guess I'm mainly a minority in online horror communities, at least all the ones I was a part of when that movie was released. Like, a lot of people fucking shit on me for loving this movie. And honestly, I can't blame them for shitting on me. I mean, it's a movie about a bunch of really awful people who get, like, a really fucked up comeuppance, and its humor is very much an acquired taste. You have to really be into Eli Roth's sense of humor in order to like Cabin Fever. And that's more so than any other movie he's ever made. Hostel, Hostel 2, Knock Knock, and even Green Inferno have way more universal appeal, at least in their sense of humor, than Cabin Fever does, at least in my opinion. So for me, when they announced that not only were they remaking Cabin Fever, they were also reusing the same script from the original movie, that kind of spelled disaster as far as I was concerned. Because if you remake a movie reusing the same script from the original movie, then you are pretty much guaranteeing comparisons with the original movie when people watch it. And you also run the risk of running into the same problems that Psycho from the 90s did, the Gus Van Sant version, which was hands down one of the most pointless remakes ever fucking made. It was a shot-for-shot remake of a classic that everyone's seen. Why the fuck would you do that? Which is pretty much how I felt going into this remake. And let me just say, my fellow gorehounds, for all of you out there who thought my 2016 catch-up vlogs were way too fucking positive, even the movies that I was kind of down on, strap in, because I fucking hated this movie. And to be fair, I went into it kind of knowing I was gonna hate it, so there is a bit of bias there, but goddamn, like, I was not prepared for how much I was just gonna despise this thing. Because it really is just so fucking pointless. It's the same damn movie, just with some minor tweaks here and there. And yeah, I'll go into more of those minor tweaks when I get to the spoilers, because some of them are kind of spoilery, but like, god. I almost don't even want to put a spoiler section because I hate this movie so much and I just want you to all fucking avoid it. But yeah, without going into spoilers, it's basically the same fucking movie. They just took out some of the jokes, they updated some of the references, and they tweaked some of the characters a little bit, mainly in the casting more so than the actual dialogue. For example, the bro dude from the original movie has been cast in this movie as kind of a nerdy stoner guy, but he has basically the same dialogue with some minor tweaks. Like at one point he references GTA 5 and Minecraft just to, you know, establish that this movie's set now, not like the other movie. One of the girls now excessively takes pictures and uploads it to her Instagram and Facebook because, of course, those things weren't really popular back in 2002. In fact, those things didn't exist back then. But that doesn't really add too much to the movie. It's really superfluous. And I would say this remake is a little more fast-paced than the original, so I guess if you didn't like the original and thought it was a little slow, which I never felt that way, then maybe you'd like this one because it's a little faster. In terms of its gore effects, once again, it's all done really practically, and the gore effects in this movie look really good, but they don't look too different from the original movie. In fact, there are many gore scenes in this movie that I thought were way better in the original movie. Not necessarily because the effects were better, but because they were shot better. Which is hard to explain, but having watched the movies back to back, yeah, in the original movie, like, Eli Roth really knew how to shoot the gore scenes in a way that was just, like, maximum, like, cringe. Whereas in this movie, while it's still cringeworthy, it just feels like some of the impact is diminished. Now, to be fair, it's entirely possible that their impact was diminished because I already knew it was gonna happen because it's the same damn movie using the same damn script. So maybe someone watching this movie for the first time and having never seen the original movie would like it way better than I did. But I can't change the fact that I saw the original movie, so that's how I felt. All the casting in this movie felt way more generic than the original movie. Like, I remember the faces of all the actors and all the characters in the original movie, and everyone was distinct. In the original movie, I could tell the difference between the bro douche, between Ryder Strong, and between the fucking preppy dude. But in this movie, I kept mixing up the Ryder Strong character from the original movie with the fucking preppy dude in this movie because they have the same hairstyle and they're similar looking dudes. A lot of the humor from the original movie has been left intact in this movie, though they have cut out some things. But the things they left feels really really forced in this version, whereas in my opinion, it felt way more natural in the original version. Just, man, guys, I don't know what to say other than I just fucking hated this movie. Like, I love the original Cabin Fever. That was one of those movies that I saw as a teenager and really, like, fucking changed my life. I saw that thing in theaters, and it was one of the first movies that I actually saw in theaters that actually established that, oh shit, like, gore movies could still exist. I had totally thought they had gone extinct in the 80s and that the 90s had gobbled them all up. But no, here was this movie, Cabin Fever, and a whole bunch of movies came out after it. It was kind of like one of the origin points of the Splat Pack. Which the Splat Pack, for those of you who don't know, was a group of filmmakers from the mid-2000s who were just doing these extremely graphic and gory horror movies. They included people like Neil Marshall, Joe Lynch, Adam Green, and of course Rob Zombie and Eli Roth, and even James Wan. In fact, James Wan was pretty much the origin point for what we now call torture porn. Which I fucking hate that term torture porn, but whatever, it's the term that stuck. We're just gonna have to fucking live with it. Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll do a whole rant about why I hate the term torture porn, but not today. This video's about Cabin Fever. So yeah, to recap, it is a completely unnecessary and super pointless remake that is slightly more fast-paced. It has just as good a gore, but shot really poorly. The actors are all bland, no one stands out, and a lot of the things I loved about the original movie is done worse here. And some of my favorite scenes were even cut out entirely from this movie, which gave me this really bizarre feeling that I've never felt before. Because this movie is using the original script, I found myself not only noticing every time it did something differently, and being slightly annoyed by it because I liked the way it was in the original version, but on top of that, when it did stick too closely to the original version and was doing the stuff that was in the original script, I found myself going, well, what's the point? It was already done way better in the original one, so why do this? So essentially, this movie couldn't win either way. Either way, I was sitting there and not happy. And to that extent, I almost felt bad for the movie. It's like it had no chance with me. And believe me, even though I went into this movie with a completely negative mindset, there was a part of me that wanted it to convince me that I was wrong. Which actually, there is precedent for that happening to me before. Because when I originally saw Let Me In, the American remake of Let the Right One In, or readaptation, or whatever you want to call it, I went into that movie with the same mindset and thought it was going to be complete dog shit, and I ended up loving it as much as I loved the original movie. So yeah, this movie has been out for a while, so I'm sure you can find it on many formats if you really want to see it, but I do not recommend Cabin Fever 2016. I hated this movie, and I almost turned it off multiple times while watching it, and it was just a slog to get through. But with that all said, my fellow gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers. Alrighty then, for those of you who have never seen Cabin Fever before, Cabin Fever 2016 is about a group of friends who go up to a cabin in the middle of the woods, end up getting infected by this flesh-eating virus from a mysterious source that causes them to get extremely paranoid and turn on one another, and in the process, they end up pissing off the locals who end up going after them and trying to kill them, and not only are their friendships irreparably damaged, they also end up fucking dying in really brutal and fucked up ways. This Cabin Fever is pretty much the same thing with some minor tweaks. For one, if you remember in the original movie, the characters often talked the way teenagers did at the time, which meant a whole lot of like, that's so gay and stuff like that. In fact, one of my favorite lines from the original movie involves the douche bro dude grabbing his gun and going out to go shooting, and his friend's like, what are you gonna go shoot out there? And the guy's like, I'm gonna go shoot some squirrels. And his friend's like, why? And the guy's like, 'cause they're gay. Just kidding, I don't care if they're gay or straight, I'm gonna shoot them anyway. Which is a line that always made me laugh from the original movie, but is completely absent from this version. Well, not entirely absent, they tweaked it. In this version, he ends up going out hunting first and ends up shooting one of the locals who's infected by the virus and coming back all shook. And his friend's like, what were you doing? He's like, I was out shooting. He's like, what were you shooting? He's just like, squirrels, and just walks off. So they took out the funny line and didn't replace it with anything interesting, and that kind of sums up like a bunch of the changes they make in the movie. Like, for example, they also changed the scene where they're all sitting around the campfire and like reciting this scary story about this massacre that happened at this bowling alley. And in the original movie, it actually flashed to the bowling alley and like a head rolling where like the bowling balls roll out of. But that does not happen in this version. In this version, they just talk about some massacre that happened at some sort of play park. And so it's all of a sudden less interesting, it doesn't have the cool flashback, and it's not as funny. So I guess they were trying to make this movie a little more serious than the original movie, but unfortunately that's to the movie's detriment. Because the fact that the original is a horror comedy is what makes it okay that the characters are so fucking despicable in the first half. You don't mind it because you're kind of laughing at them and you're kind of waiting for their comeuppance. But in this version, there's not that humor Yomarz, so you're just kind of stuck with a whole bunch of characters that you can't fucking stand. One of the other changes they made is that the party cop from the original movie, this one cop that like runs into them and is all like, hey guys, you gonna have a party? I want to have a party. Can I come to your party? That character from the original movie is in this movie, but instead of being played by a guy, it's played by a girl, which was a change that I didn't mind. I actually thought that that was one of the better ideas, because now instead of just being this creepy guy who's hitting on all the girls, it's now a creepy lady cop hitting on all the girls, which kind of changes the context a little bit. And it's the one thing in the movie that is both similar and different enough in order to justify its existence. Whereas I feel most of this movie really does not. There's also the scene in the original movie where one of the guys runs into town and he's been infected and he's trying to get help, and this one kid stands up and goes, pancakes, and does these karate flips and then bites his hand, which was one of my favorite scenes from the original movie and always made me laugh every time. But in this movie, he just stands up, says pancakes, and then bites his hand. That's it. There's no karate kicks. It's not emphasized at all. It's just a really boring thing that flies by really fast. Like, if you hadn't seen the original movie, you would not know that that scene had any impact on anybody at all. Like, if you see the original Cabin Fever with a whole bunch of people who fucking love Cabin Fever, when that scene happens, everyone chants pancakes. And if the original movie was like this remake, that would never have happened. Like, what the fuck? But at the same time, I am sitting there going, well, I guess it has to do something a little differently, but does it have to choose something so boring? I don't know, like, this movie has really thrown my head for a loop on, like, what remakes should be, to be honest. Like, I feel like most of the really good remakes, the best ones, all do their own thing. Even Dawn of the Dead did its own thing. The Thing did its own thing. The Fly did its own thing. The Blob did its own thing. Whereas most of the worst remakes are just the same movie done over again, but in a shitty way. But then again, there are remakes like The Hills Have Eyes that are essentially the same movie. It doesn't use the same script, but it follows the same structure. And in my opinion, actually improves the original movie. I love the remake of Hills Have Eyes. But not Cabin Fever, man. Like, this movie's just balls. This movie is just bullshit, guys. I don't know what else to say. I don't even have the energy nor the inspiration to, like, go into it plot point by plot point, because if you've seen the original movie, you already know. Anyway, my fellow gorehounds, I'm gonna try to be more analytical in my next review, positive or negative, but like, god damn it, I guess I'm just too close to the original movie in order to see this one clearly. So check out Cabin Fever if you want. Like I said, it's probably available on every platform. It's been out for a year. And as per usual, like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to ring that notification bell on my channel just in case that whole subscriber glitch thing is still happening. And as always, my fellow gorehounds, peace out, and I'll catch y'all later.